So very recently, I just did an unboxing of 3 Oppo products, the Oppo Reno4 Pro, the Oppo Watch here, and the Oppo W51 ANC earbuds. Now, I actually intended to do a review of all 3 in the same video, but I have a lot of things to say about each one of them, so I'm going to do them separately. And today, we're going to talk about the phone, the Oppo Reno4 Pro. So let's very quickly go through the specs of the phone. So the Oppo Reno4 Pro, alright, has a 6.5 Super AMOLED Full HD Plus screen, okay? It also has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G, it has 8GB of RAM, and it comes in either 128GB of storage or 256. Now you can also expand your storage with an micro SD card, you also have a headphone jack, and you also have an in-screen fingerprint sensor. Now in terms of life or battery, you got a 4000 mAh battery, which is pretty impressive. And honestly, with this phone, I got about a day and a half, but we're going to talk about that a bit later on in this review. I want to talk about the build quality. Now, honestly, build quality, I have absolutely no complaints. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that they managed to get a 4000 mAh battery into something this thin. It is incredible. I absolutely love the back of this screen. Honestly, I feel like a lot more companies should be following this. It's not your shiny glass and all that. It's got more of a matte finish, so I really like that. It is not a fingerprint magnet, and you don't need the case to get a bit more grip. It has a really nice grip to it. Now, my own phone, the Samsung Note 10 Plus, that in-screen fingerprint sensor is okay. It does fail some of the time. This one does not 100% of the time. I've not had any issues with this, so I'm very, very impressed with this in-screen fingerprint sensor. And now to the camera. So the main camera is a 48 megapixel camera. You've also got an 8 megapixel ultra wide, a 2 megapixel macro, and a 2 megapixel mono. All right, and honestly, I'm not quite sure what that mono is. I mean, there are 2 main kinds of mono lens when you talk about phones. You either get a monochrome lens or a monofocal lens. Now for me, I'm almost certain that it's a monochrome lens, but I'll tell you why in a bit. Now just to be clear, this phone is not a flagship phone, okay? So this goes for about 899 Singapore dollars, but we'll talk about that price a bit later on, but I just want to give you an idea. So it is not a flagship phone in that sense, but I have to say, the camera, the pictures that you take with this camera is very close to it. It has really nice colors. I particularly like the main camera. I feel like it has good representation of colors. It's not oversaturated most of the time. It's really good. Even the selfie camera, I would say it's okay. Obviously, you've got that beautification thing, but at least you can adjust it so it's not that annoying. But overall, I would say the cameras are really good. I will say though, in certain scenarios, especially low light, the ultra wide doesn't fare too well. I mean, the 48 megapixel on the main camera, the night shots are beautiful. It's really, really good. I mean, it's not going to be the sharpest, but then again, any flagship phone in their night mode isn't that sharp. I took quite a few night mode shots, and I have to say, I really, really like it. It amazed me actually, even though I just held it with my hand, and my hands aren't very steady, but it took really nice shots. But yeah, in the same position, if I took a picture in the ultra wide lens, some of it looked pretty bad, but in daylight it is absolutely perfect. The macro lens I find a little bit of a hit and miss. It's good for taking close-up shots, but honestly, if I took a picture with the main lens and like zoomed in, to me, in my untrained eye, they kind of look the same. But still, good colors, good representation, and very similar to the main lens in terms of color, so that's really important actually. Now video, I have to say I was impressed with the video, not so much with the quality. The quality is pretty good, but the stabilization, it was amazing. Now this video you're going to see now is without a gimbal, okay? I'm just holding it, and not even with 2 hands. I was just holding it in my right hand and walking. I was at the Botanical Gardens in Singapore, and I was just like filming and walking, and honestly it kind of looks like it was on a gimbal. I was really, really impressed. Now I usually talk about the price of the phone towards the end of the review, but I'm going to talk about it now because there are a few things I want to address after this. Now, like I said, the phone comes in at about 899 Singapore dollars, and there have been some concerns, not just me, but a lot of my friends as well, when I show them the phone and I let them play around, and a lot of them say the same thing. They'll be like, wow, a phone with a Snapdragon 720G for $899, is that right? Now, there are some arguments to be made. I mean, like if you look at the Google Pixel 4a, that comes in at about 600-ish Singapore dollars, I think, and that has on paper at least a better CPU. Now, a couple of things about that. One is there have been some websites who've done testing and actually found that the 720G to be the better APU, but I'm not going to go too much into that. The second thing is, now the Google Pixel 4 is really good in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of things that it's lacking. Now, of course, it's got one of the best cameras around in terms of phone cameras, but it's not as versatile. Now, I have to say with this phone, not in terms of the lens, but it takes some of the most polished effect photos. Right? What I mean is like filtered photos. Now, it has some of the most polished effects I've ever seen. Now, I was playing around with the different effects, and even Oppo markets this quite a fair bit. There are quite a few really good effects. One of them is the monochrome effect, where it detects the person in the shot and only retains color on that person, and your entire background is in black and white. So I tested it with a friend of mine, and this photo you're going to see, I mean, in terms of the quality, it is so polished. I mean, apart from the fact that she had no idea what I was doing, hence the face. But the photo was the photo I thought was really good. Even at the edges of the photo, you don't see like, you know, blurring of colors. The black and white was really good, which is why it makes me think that mono lens that I was talking about earlier might be a monochrome lens, and then it in software wise adjusts the two. But here's the thing, it's not just that. It works in the selfie camera as well, and in video mode. That's amazing. And looking at it live, it's incredible. Like, I was looking at it and I was actually like turning it around while filming my wife, and it's managed to just keep it steady. You didn't get like shifting colors that much. It really is a very polished effect. Now, the other thing is the night flare mode, which honestly, even like the monochrome picture and this night flare, they all sound extremely gimmicky, and in most phones they really are. But again, it's so polished on this one. It looks really nice, and taken in the right conditions, it's hard to imagine that this was taken on a phone. Now, apart from these two that Oppo markets a lot, and quite rightly so, they've got a whole bunch of different effects, and again, they are all so well done, and they don't feel like cheap or like an afterthought. And I think that's what really sets this phone apart from any other phone, and I'm including flagship phones in this. So of course, is there anything that I don't quite like about this phone? Now, honestly, in terms of the phone itself, I have absolutely no complaints. It is so smooth. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention that the screen is a 90Hz screen, okay? It is so smooth. It was actually on auto by default, and when I used it most of the time, I could tell that it was on 60Hz, so I just put it on 90Hz most of the time, and honestly, even then, the battery is really good. Now, I honestly feel with this phone, there is absolutely no issues. I can't think of a fault with it. The fault I have kind of lies in the price. Now, at $899, in a lot of ways, I would say that it's justified, but I think that if they would lower the price just a little bit to like $799, I don't know if that counts for a little bit, but if they had priced it at 799 Singapore dollars, then I would say that this is a breakthrough phone, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. Now, another thing I want to say about this phone, and I think a lot of you are going to disagree with me, and if you do, feel free to, you know, share your thoughts in the comment section below, but I actually think this is a flagship phone killer. Now, why do I say this? Well, a lot of people have this idea, and I guess they might be right, that a flagship phone is really a phone that has flagship specs but at a lower price. Now, this does not. However, I actually slightly disagree. I feel like a real flagship killer is a phone that sort of has one tier lower specs but gives you the same features and the same experience as a flagship phone, and this ticks all the boxes. So does it have a nice screen? Check. Good build quality? Double check. Good pictures? I would say check. Now, a lot of people will complain that Snapdragon 720G on this phone is a little underpowered. Now, honestly, I've had this for 3 weeks and I haven't seen a single issue or lag or stutter. Now, having said that, I understand that a lot of times when you buy a new phone, the more you install and the more crap you have on your phone, it might slow down. So I can't vouch for that because I don't have this phone for long and I have to return it. But when I was using it, and I have used some mid-tier phones where from the start there are some lag issues, but this, no, it has given me the flagship experience. It has been as satisfying as my Note 10 Plus. It's been smooth, and because you've got a less power hungry chip with a 4000 mAh battery, it lasts for days. When I went to the Botanic Gardens, I used it. It still lasts the entire day before I went to bed with still 20% battery. That's incredible. Oh, and another thing, gaming on this phone. Again, no issues at all. I played a couple of games, so like an hour at a time. No issues. It got a bit warm, but then again, a lot of phones do. So the big question here, should you buy this phone? Well, if you're looking to get a new phone and you have the budget of about 900 Singapore dollars, and by the way, that's not flagship price anymore. We got flagship phones going for like 1,500, 1,600, even the new Note 20 going for as high as almost $2,000 Singapore. Certainly at $900, this phone does look actually really good value. Alright, so that about wraps up my review of the Oppo Reno 4 Pro. Now, if you like this video, you know what to do, and I would love it if you would subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive notifications on our next video. I'm JP, and I'll see you real soon.